So Snowshoot is all about riding the next year's model sleds. And we're here in West Yellowstone, Montana. We've got one more riding day left. We're having breakfast, and we're going to kind of talk about what's new for 2020. But Rich, how would you talk about Snowshoot? When you're, like, to explain Snowshoot, what is it?
Well, I've been coming here for over 20 years now, Jeff. Probably like 28, not to age myself, but a few gray hairs. But it's a great spot. There's always snow in West Yellowstone. And the manufacturers come out every year and they put out all their new hardware for us to ride and photograph, but they're prototypes. So you get it.
They're pretty close though. Like
you get about 80% of the feeling, I would say. There's room for error out here, so they can always make refinements and improvements before the consumer gets a snowmobile.
Yeah, and this gives us a chance to ride everything so that when the embargo dates come and go, we're prepared with, you know, the magazines and TV show stuff, and we've got all our stuff basically for pretty much most of the next year.
Exactly, and I think there's going to be a lot of shocked people next year when they find out what exactly is coming out. There's going to be a lot of surprises and a lot of disappointments this year.
Exactly, but I mean, so far we've been having, ride day 6 now for Snowshoot.
Yep.
We're starting ride day 6.
That's right.
So we've been on snow for 5 days, 3 of which have been pretty snowy. Like, the snow conditions here are insane, right?
Oh, I've never seen it like this. I think we've had like 3 feet of snow in the last 4 days. Roads have been closed. They just opened up by here. So there's been a lot of crabby people, especially cameramen.
Yeah, we've had to wait for some of our guys to get here because of closed roads. But essentially, Snowshoot is all about, you know, this big media event, all 4 manufacturers. And with those guys here all in one place, it gives us a chance to, you know, ride, not only experience the new sleds, but ride them all back to back. So if we're riding one 850 against another, we can literally hop on, switch on the trail, and really get a feel of what these sleds are like.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of, like, after being here, not getting into model specific stuff yet, but what are some of the, you know, kind of the takeaways for model year 20 that you're kind of thinking of, like first impressions?
Myself, I ride predominantly in Ontario, Quebec, upper state, Minnesota, the UP, and I can't believe how they've gone towards more mountain and crossover snowmobiles. Like, it seems like, let's get to the longer tracks.
And everything from, you know, the utility side of off-trail stuff all the way up to expert level mountain stuff. But one of the things that I've found is that all the models have really been kind of distilled down and focused into, you know, a specific type of terrain or rider. And I think you really got to be honest with yourself. And it doesn't matter what you are. If you're a ground and pound guy or a mountain guy, there's a sled out there for you. And I think you got to be honest with yourself as to which sled could be the best one for you.
I think it's very confusing. I'm a snowmobiler and I've been in this industry for a very long time, and I'm confused. Like, I want to be like, I want an XRS, I want an XCR, I want like an aggressive trail sled. So I know where I fit in. But then when I go off trail, I have no idea where I fit in, because I know I'm not an expert mountain rider like Tyler.
Yeah.
And I'm coming down the pipe. I don't know if I'm a free rider. I don't know if I'm a chaos guy. I don't know if I'm a riot. Where do I fit in?
Yeah.
So I'm listening to manufacturers and they're trying to tell me where I fit in, and I just disagree, because I think I want a big shock package, and I don't know, maybe I'll go back to the trails.
I spent a little bit of time, actually a lot of time, on an MXZ TNT, and that thing was pretty good. But am I a TNT guy or am I like an XRS guy? I don't know.
I really like the way you focused on that TNT, because when we were going down those flats and you started like just peeling away on that 850 TNT, and I was on another 850, it was pretty humiliating, let me tell you.
It's all the talent behind the bars, I think.
I ran out of talent.
Yeah, I did it on willpower.
Yeah, maybe you had a better line.
I think it was, no, I'm going to go with willpower. But, you know, not only with all these different models coming out and these focused models, we've also got to talk about spring sales, because a lot of these models are only available in the springtime, which is right now.
Right.
So people got till, you know, the next 30, 60 days to try to decide what they're going to get. And if they don't put their money down, they ain't getting it.
Well, if you want the Patriot, an 850 Patriot, like, you got to put your money down now. But what about Arccat? If you don't put your money down by April, you don't get an Arccat, which is shocking to me.
And I mean, it's just complicating everything, which is great about this industry. There's just so much refinement all the time. But again, that has really distilled these models down into very specific ones. So part of this talk and part of bringing the folks at home into our conversation here this morning is to really help everybody figure out what's best for them. We've got Dan Scallett, who's the president of our Riders Union. Dan, how many years have you guys been coming to Snowshoot together?
It's been about 25, 26 years, and pounding the trails together, chasing each other.
We're getting old.
Yeah, I mean, and you're kind of our resident expert when it comes to, kind of really being able to try the different sleds, and your feedback is key to what we talk about in the magazines and the TV shows. So what's kind of your big thing for 2020 if you were to, after riding everything for the last 5 days?
After riding everything, I still prefer the higher end shock package stuff for pounding the trails. When the trails get rough, I love a great shock package on the sled. Doesn't matter what kind of sled you're on, I like the shock packages.
And that's your background too. You did a lot of cross country racing and factory racer for Arctic Cat and things like that. So let's talk top of the line with the SRX. I mean, that thing's back this year, small refinement with the front end, ARCS front suspension. So they've basically raised the lower control arm up a little bit, so the roll center's a bit better.
I don't know about Dan, but when you're driving that down the straights, low windshield, did you find that was a problem? I did, because it was like pulling me off the sled. Like, I'm not getting any stronger the older I get, but the wind on your chest.
These sleds are so fast. I mean, that just accelerates, and then having that wind pushing against you multiplies that effect.
Yeah,
So
I was doing crunches.
It's like having a very soft seat in your car. When you hit the accelerator, it just sets you back, and you feel like, holy cow, this thing's taking off like crazy.
Yeah.
The wind does the same thing to you.
Yeah. Now, the SRX, I think we talked about it last night.
Oh, the color.
The color.
Why don't you start with the color, Jeff?
An SRX should be blue. It's just me. An SRX needs to be blue.
Pretty boy like Jeff. TV host wants blue, of course.
I like the black.
Exactly.
I think it's mean. It's going down the trail. The thing sounds mean. It should look mean.
Yeah,
it's low to the ground.
Sinister.
You want to just
evil.
clear the trail when you go through it. I mean, you want to let people know that this is what just came through.
It is pretty badass.
Like bowling ball. They should be black. Down they come, down the aisle, strike.
Yeah. So we can agree to disagree on that. I mean, the black is pretty sweet when you see that thing coming down the trail.
But I do agree. From a distance, the blue does look better.
Yeah.
It is like it stands out. The Yamaha Racing blue, it does look great.
So the IQS is super easy for people to kind of figure out. On the other end of the spectrum, we've got, say, the new Polaris XCR, which is got those the Walker Evans velocities on it, like high and low speed compression. Like that's a pretty high end sled that we're talking with suspensions now.
Well, when you say XCR combined with Indy, what do you think of?
Racer. Yeah. It's a racer. It doesn't get any
cross country racer. That's the XCR, right?
Yes.
But I mean, it's got the Pro CC rear suspension in it now. That's one of the models. And that thing is just a monster on the trails. Like
that's where you set the bar, basically. When you're comparing sleds out there on the trail, you kind of gotta you go around that E50 Patriot as a benchmark, and the XCR, the shock package. It's kind of things are better out there. I'm not saying it's the best, Dan, but I'm gonna shake his head. But that's kind of like where the comparison lies. People start comparing it to that snow.
Correct.
Yeah. I'd be pretty happy with riding that XCR. I can tell you that. That thing is amazing. But I think you have to be a smart rider to be able to deal with that shock package on there. It's super easy to get lost, and you could turn that into a great riding sled into a crap can pretty easy by turning the buttons the wrong way.
If you're looking at your buddy's sled saying, "Hey, how are you adjusting your sled?" and you use that as your benchmark, you could be in left field and take that sled and just make it terrible ride for you and start to complain about it.
Yeah.
But you have to know what you're doing. You have to have that level of competency to be able to adjust it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Know what you're doing.
You have
or
to
have
know
a friend like Dan.
Or
Dan set this up for me.
Exactly. Now on the Skidoo side, I mean, Skidoo's got their comparable model on ground and pound, which is the XRS. Lots of adjustability, but that thing is dialed in.
I was surprised this year on how great a snowmobile it was. But that 850, the XRS and the X package we had, when we were smoking down the trail, it felt light. Like you're going into the corners where the XCR seemed a little more planter. Like you're coming in and you know what's going on. With an XRS, you're kind of like, it's doing everything right, nothing's going wrong, but it's very light. There's not a lot of feedback.
It was just going through the bumps. I mean, it was eating up. The suspension felt soft, yet
it did everything.
Still firm.
Never had that spine tingling hit, right?
Never come unhinged. It just.
I feel like that's going to be in my barn next year.
Yeah, it was very surprising how well calibrated that one was.
Yeah. Now, Arctic Cat, you've got the Riot with the normal one, which has got that lay-down steering post in it, wider ski stance, and now the Riot X with that very vertical stand-up telescoping handlebar system on it, but narrow ski stance, and you can definitely feel they're directed to two different
major difference
riders and areas to ride in, right?
One works a lot better on the trail. If you're heading out, if you can spend most of your time on the trail before you get to your play area, one thing you better see it from it.
Yeah.
If your play area is real close to where you unload your trailer, you may want to just look at that X and say, it's all about playing with it.
Yeah.
There's no more, it's not 50-50 anymore, really.
No.
Crossovers aren't 50-50. You're like 70% on trail, 30% off, or 30% on. There's no more 50-50.
It goes back to that distilling down of each category into, a specific rider's needs and wants and a specific area that you're riding
You
in.
just got to know what goes back to the confusion. You got to know who you are.
Yeah, is your hat flat? That could have
It's a flat brim hat.
that could have a difference too, right?
Just a hand.
Just switch from crossover for a second and kind of go the other way before ground and pound to the sport utility stuff. That Expedition Extreme is obviously it's built to really knock on the door of the Polaris Titan, which surprised a lot of people a couple of years ago when it came out. Surprised us.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting though. When you can get on like a Titan or an Expedition, you go down that trail, man, you can really you're hauling ass. Like those things are fast.
20
and they look
inch
badass.
You squeeze the throttle, it
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
It just goes, and you go like, wow, it's a surprise.
And then
it's
you
a
jump-
real surprise, but how it just goes down the trail and through
they're
the bumps.
fast. And
Yeah.
then you jump off trail, and the flotation on these things are just unbelievable.
Go wherever you
but
want.
I did watch Jeff, and he went down to Mother Earth on one of those things on the Expedition. But the saving grace was
I made it. I had to make that decision. Is like, can I stop before I get to the tree, or at what point is throttle your friend until it isn't? I was really at that point.
here comes a 2-ton snowmobile at you.
Well, I
Wouldn't-
took it off trail and went through breaking trail, and it was floating. I was like, I'm gonna get stuck, but it just keeps going and pushing snow. The bumper's pushing.
Mm-hmm. It goes.
It's actually breaking trail on, with a big sled like that. I was
Although
surprised.
I wouldn't want to get stuck.
No, that was my biggest worry. If I'm stuck back here, I think I'll be spending the night.
Yeah, we got to get Tyler over to the table. Hey, bud, come on over.
Anyways, last time I saw you guys, you were stuck in my trenches.
Here we go with a smack talk.
Guy's always on the throttle.
That's
I'm
right.
glad to see you put a curve in your hat.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, you're now welcome at the table.
Yeah, it's a young little punk with that flat build past couple of years.
So we've been talking a lot about how the snowmobile industry is really getting distilled down into the different types of riders. I mean, before I think you were an RMK guy, but now you might be a Chaos guy.
Absolutely.
So talk to us about Chaos, which is really, that's big news for Polaris this year, the Chaos.
Well, you are right. Before I was strictly a deep snow rider, tight trees, all that stuff. Now I'm finding myself wanting to jump off stuff, bounce off of obstacles and all that. And the Chaos was amazing. It fit my riding style just perfectly. I mean, I could still do all the stuff in the trees, maybe not as precise as the RMK, but the shock package, the whole sled together, really gets the job done. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
Chaos is one thing, but let's talk about Skidoo and their Summit Expert, which is the new buggy for them, right? So what's that like? For a guy who really knows what they're doing with it, because we don't, let's face it.
We look good going up the hill on that though.
Yeah, it'll get us places, but we can't really make it do what it's
Park it,
supposed to.
turn it off, have a conversation, and watch Tyler.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of great new features on that sled, such as the new ski stopper that allows the ski to not fold up. So on a side hill, you're not washing out, it's more predictable. You've got smaller diameter handlebars, so you're not getting arm pump as much, which is huge, to stay in control.
Yeah.
You have an adjustable limiter strap, so if you want to wheelie that thing, you can wheelie all day long. But if you want to keep your momentum to make it to the top of the hill and beat your buddy, you just suck that limiter strap up and give her heck.
And
Sounds like Dan's sled. Wheelie King Dan over here.
yeah, one of the things that's really identifiable to that, it's got a little shorter tunnel on it.
Yes.
And no snow flap.
Yeah.
Does that really make a difference, or is that just hey, look at me type of feature?
Makes a big difference for the guy behind you.
Makes a huge difference for the guy behind you. That's right.
It's just get pelted. It throws in some big chunks.
Yeah.
But it really does add a lot of performance off trail. One thing is with that shorter tunnel, when you are wheeling up and you're about to get stuck, having a longer tunnel, that's going to dig into the snow and not allow you to maneuver that thing around. But
Yeah.
with a shorter tunnel, I mean, anywhere. You just pull that thing up and spin it around, and you're not getting as much drag in the snow with the tunnel.
Is it something you have to learn, or is it going to come natural with a shorter tunnel? Is it?
It'd come a little bit more natural, but you definitely have to learn it as well. Having that snow flap gone, though, it's out of your way, you know?
It's like all the cool kids are doing it. Take your snow flap off.
Yeah.
Is it like wearing a flat hat again?
It used to be the old saying, if your snow flap's sticking straight out, you had a good day, because you got stuck. But
there's a lot of places you could go with that statement.
What about the Alpha, though? No one's talked about the Alpha yet.
The Alpha. Yeah, that throws another
Like,
dog
I just got
in the
back
ring.
from Europe riding, and I swear all the Alphas are there. We were out there, Matt and I were out there, and there was like 100 Alphas. Like, I fell out of place because I wasn't on one. So it's like, there's deep snow, but you're not going these crazy climbs.
And
so
it's him to tell us about the Alpha.
100%.
I'm backing into that.
you spent the most time on it.
Yeah.
We couldn't get it away from him.
No. But you did have a good. You talked about overcorrection on the Alpha.
Yes, so I would say that's more rider error just because I'm not used to the sled. However, that thing is extremely easy to ride. The overcorrection you mentioned was probably just that flex edge track. I felt like sometimes I would get out of my line, and to get back into my line, I would overcorrect it, overcompensate, and lose my line and have to loop out. But that just means I don't have to put as much input into the sled, and I'm not used to that. They're very easy to ride.
that single beam works.
Oh yeah, it is ridiculous how easy it is to initiate a side hill. Hold
Would it
a
make
side
Dan
hill.
look good?
Oh yeah,
I could stay with you guys? I could actually follow it?
all day, buddy.
Nice. I could.
I was watching from the bottom. It was pretty amazing though, but I was watching from the bottom, like good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can side hill across.
Show me that
walls.
again.
Yeah. But yeah, it all comes back to being honest with yourself, right? And trying to figure out what type of sled you need for your situation, because it exists.
There is definitely a sled out there for you to choose from. So just study your snowmobiles, get in there in the spring, get into your dealer, and snow check a sled. You'll be ready to rip.
All right, guys, so last word of advice, what we're kind of taking away from model year 2020, what can we tell consumers that are, right now trying to figure out what they're going to put their money down on?
I think it's a bit confusing. So first thing you got to do is go talk to your dealer and have a serious conversation with yourself about what kind of rider you really are. Do you need the fancy shocks? Do you need some of these accessories?
Do you need
Do
a
you
155?
really need? Yeah, exactly. You got to talk to yourself and be honest.
Yeah, what type of snowmobiling are you doing? What kind of riding? Dan, is longer is always better nowadays. There's no more 121s. 129s are they seem to be going
us.
away.
The manufacturers are pushing us into a longer sled.
Yep.
And it is
It's
a better
good.
ride. It's a better ride.
It depends on what trails, because where I ride, some of the trails are really tight, so the longer sleds don't really apply. And we don't have the deep snow sometimes, right, Jeff? I mean,
Yeah.
like where we're riding. But then we go up north, we go a little further, and we're into like 4 feet of snow. So maybe a 137 is where it's at, 144 for us.
It is for us. I mean, we're in the media and we get to come to Snowshoot and try all the different things. And I kind of feel sorry for normal consumers who don't get the chance and the opportunities to do what we do and hop off
test
one.
drive.
It's so tough. But
Yeah.
I think, Dan, you're right. You got to be honest with yourself about what type of rider you are, where you ride, and whatnot. And really, there's a sled for everybody out there. Whether you're mountain guy, kind of crossover guy, you being from the Midwest, and for us, Eastern Flatlanders, there's a sled out there for us. But yeah, we just have to be honest with ourselves as to what's best suited. So on that note, I don't know if we solved a lot of issues here. Did we gave some advice? Be honest with yourself.
We confused ourselves.
We confused ourselves. We've had long arguments in the hotel rooms about models and
Paint colors.
all that
I
stuff.
still
Engines.
like the black SRX.
Yeah, I like the blue SRX. So
I do like the 850 motors.
You like, what do you like? Your Riot or Chaos guy now?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning more towards chaos, and I mean, you just gotta, like we talked about, see what type of riding you do. Even if you ride the same terrain with your buddy, you don't have to buy the same sled as your buddy. You might ride different than him in the same area. So get to your dealer in the spring, see what sleds they have, snow check one, and you will be happy next year. Any brand you buy, you're gonna be thrilled next winter. Absolutely.
I don't think we can say it any better than that. So thanks for watching. I hope this helped. We'll see you next year. Right?
Yep.